Ta-da.
Oh. Hey guys, Anna Krueger here. We were just humming some Jeopardy music waiting for this to get started. So if you heard a little tune, that was what was going on. But this is Anna, and I'm with the ISA MAPS coaching with Keller Williams. And I'm a coach, and I like to explain things about the ISA world because I think a lot of people are starting to hire ISAs, and we want to help you do that the best way possible. And then we have Katie, who's also a coach with the ISA coaching program. Katie's awesome. She's fun. She's smart. She's awesome. So Katie, tell us a little bit about who you are and what team you're from and your background.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I'm with the Heil Real Estate Group with Tim Heil out of Austin. I joined real estate in 2013, so I'm hitting my 5-year anniversary here in a week or so.
Nice.
I joined the team as the listing specialist and effectively took Tim's job at that point. So he was able to work on the business instead of in the business. And from there, I have seen massive growth with him, opening multiple expansion cities across the country, opening a call center. As I was working as the listing specialist, I worked in tandem with our inside sales agents, outside sales agents, and learned a lot about the ISA OSA model through that experience. And I'm super excited to talk to you guys all about it today.
Yeah, and I think one thing I love about having Katie on board with the team is because she was on the side of being the agent working with the ISA. And so a big challenge we see with people that hire inside sales agents is sometimes there can be that culture rub, so to speak, of we're just not gelling as a team. And so I love Katie's perspective as an agent and hearing the way that she talks about the ISAs and what they did for her and her business. Because Katie, tell everybody how many homes you sold. Guys, first year, no experience. This is ridiculous. How many homes did you close, not meet?
Yeah, I closed 144 listings in my first year in real estate.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't know anybody else. If you're out there and you closed more than that, I would love to hear from you because, Katie, that's the highest I've ever heard of. I think it's amazing. But a lot of that comes from having a team behind you. No one person can close 144 homes their first year. And a lot of that came from how Tim trained you, having inside sales agents setting them up for you. And so we're going to go into today how's that work? What do inside sales agents put, what part did they play and how can other people have the same kind of success? So, and then I'll share a little bit of my background. While I'm doing this, I would love for you guys to type in what you want to get from this webinar. So Katie and I are both pretty flexible. We have a plan in our mind of what we're going to talk about today. And we can absolutely adjust if you guys have specific questions that a lot of you have, we'll talk about that. So type in, you're here, you're taking time out of your day. What do you want to get by the time it's over? And we'll hit those questions. So my background is I started doing inside sales, honestly, through a temp job. I needed a job, became a college recruiter, and really it was inside sales starting in 2006 and failed miserably. I mean, really miserably, like super bad. And anyway, about 3 months in, finally learned some language patterns and tricks and became, a top producer on my team. And really started training what I did because it was a turnaround, right? Like I was failing and then I was top producer. So it's really since 2008, I've been training inside sales agents. I used to do it in the college industry and now I do it in the real estate industry. And so partnered up with Tim, Katie's team owner, partnered up with him. Gosh, when was that? 2016? I think it was November of 2015, actually.
Yeah.
That we launched the program. And so now it's coming up on 3 years. And that's the one thing I do is coach inside sales agents. So Katie, a question that we get a lot is what is an inside sales agent? Because it's a term that some people know, but could have different definitions. So just what is an inside sales agent?
Yeah, that's a great point to clarify. So I use the term incorrectly a lot, to be honest with you. So inside sales agent specifically is somebody who is receiving inbound leads and then returning calls, reaching out to connect with them. So I think of that more in my mind as an inbound lead coordinator. This is just the random terminology that we picked up on the Heil group. But for industry standards, ISA is for inbound leads, returning those and following up. OSA is for an outbound prospecting agent, right? Somebody who is hitting the phones, calling expired withdrawals for sale by owners. A lead didn't come in that's causing them to turn around and call back out. So you will often hear these terms used interchangeably and incorrectly, right? I am guilty of it. I often say ISA, meaning an outbound prospector. But for this webinar, I want us to be really clear and on the same page.
Yeah. And I find a lot of people, and guys, here's the deal. Whatever term you use, it doesn't matter. What we're talking about today is the person that you're going to hire whose one thing is lead generation and lead conversion. So if you want to call it an ISA, if you want to call it an OSA, whatever that term is, the idea is they're doing the activity of converting your leads for you and then adding leads to the database, which is, I mean, Gary Keller talks about in Shift. I'm looking for the Shift. Here it is. In this book right here, if you don't have it, you should get it because we're about to enter a shift. So read this book. In here, he talks about lead generation and lead conversion are the two most business critical activities that you need to master. So we're talking about hiring the person that's going to do that on average 6 hours a day. And so for today's webinar, because we're lazy, at least I am, we're just going to call it ISA, Inside Sales Agent. And it's going to capture the person that really does the inbound calls and the outbound prospecting all in one, just because it's simple. So ISA is really encapsulating both of those things. So let's talk about why we need an ISA. And so Katie, I'm going to put some data up on the screen. But while I'm doing that, why don't you share from your perspective, why would someone say, or what would the trigger be of, I think I need to hire this position on my team?
So for me, some telltale signs of hiring an ISA OSA is I have been consistently myself as a rainmaker been lead generating and closing deals to the point where I'm hitting a ceiling and I'm not able to do any more business than where I'm at, and I want to leverage that piece of my business out so that I can continue to sell more houses. So I have already hired an administrative assistant to leverage out the $12 an hour work that I don't need to be doing as the rainmaker, right? So I've already mastered that. And now I'm looking at leveraging out specifically my lead gen because I've hit a ceiling and can't sell any more houses each month than what I'm currently doing.
Yeah, and everybody hear what she just said, and that's according to Gary's model in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, which, funny enough, I have right here. Don't judge me because it's porn. Look at that. But he talks about your first hire really should be an assistant. And I hear a lot of people through coaching with MAPS say, well, I want to hire additional sales people and I'll do the assistant, I'll do that hire later. But the thing is, if you get a quality assistant in-house, they will take things off your plate that you now have more time to do the lead generation yourself. And so to be transparent, and I know Haro, who was my team owner, he's talked about this. I'm sure he's fine with me talking about it. We didn't do that right on our team, and we still are paying the price for that. We hired salespeople, and we had admin, but they were drowning because every time we added a salesperson, because our systems never got real clean, they were just drowning. So every salesperson meant more transactions that they had to close for us on the back end. And they just never had the opportunity to set up systems. They were always putting out fires. Whereas if we had, according to Gary's model, hired the assistant and then a transaction coordinator before adding salespeople, we would have had systems, our marketing would have been better, everything would have been better. And so this hire usually is coming in after you've been doing it for a while and you have some admin in place to help handle those systems. So I'm going to put some data up on the screen. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, here it is. All right, so why are we hiring people? This is another thing to be thinking about. This is a Harvard study. I think it's from 2012. And what they did was 3 years of data. They studied 15,000 leads. You can see it right here, and 100,000 call attempts. I love that because it's not some Facebook survey. It's actually data that Harvard studied for a long period of time with a lot of data points. The thing to note, because I've had people say, well, this, it's a little older. People do text now. Is this still reliable data? So I actually researched that about 2 months ago. And what I found is Harvard went to redo the study thinking data's probably changed with the way technology's changed. And what they found after getting into the redo, they found that the data actually had not changed. And so this, you know, if you're one of those people saying, I've seen this before, I saw it 3 years ago, you know, is it still legit? Yes, it is still legit. They just went to update it and it was the same. So I want you to think about yourself if you're an agent, or honestly, even if you're an ISA. I see your names and some of you are ISAs, and you might be wondering, is it time for me to hire a second ISA? So what I want you to think about looking at this data is we can see if you are on point, right? And you would be calling your leads within 5 minutes. So someone's on your website right now, they submit information and you're calling them within 5 minutes. When you do that, within 5 minutes, look at the opportunity that you're actually going to reach them versus calling them in 10 minutes. There's a 400% difference between calling someone in 5 minutes versus 10 minutes, which is crazy. So if you are not getting to leads within 5 minutes and you're doing everything you possibly can, you're truly burning the candle on both ends. It's not that you're not managing time well. You legit cannot get to people within 5 minutes. You have a huge missed opportunity in a pickup ratio, 4 times of a difference. So that right there could be a sign, I need help. The other piece is look at this figure number 4 where it says persistence. What they found is if you call people at least 6 times, and it's not 6 times in 6 months, it's 6 times in about 2 weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks, you can expect a 90% pickup rate or callback. And that makes sense, right? If somebody calls me 6 times in 6 days, I'm eventually going to think I need to call this person back and see what they want. Maybe tell them, hey, I'm not interested, but I'm not going to just let them keep calling me every day, right? I'm going to make sure that we connect and figure out what's up. So if you are not calling every new lead that comes in, guys, every new lead, think about that. How many leads did you get in just in the last week? And if you're not calling all of them at least 6 times or however, you know, if you get them on the 3rd call, that's fine. But on average, you need to call them at least 6 times. If you're not doing that, you are losing money. It's like you're throwing money out the car window and just driving down the highway. You're missing opportunity. If you look down here, it's kind of small, so I'll read it out to you. But the average call attempts per rep, only 40%, actually a little less than 40%, even call 1 time, which is kind of crazy, right? Not even 1 time. And look, if you get over to the 6th, you're less than 10%. It's hard to even tell what that number is. So the point I'm making is even if you're not that great with your scripts, maybe you say, you know, well, you know, I call 6 times, but I don't know what to say. It doesn't matter. Just by calling the 6 times, you're going to have an increased chance of actually converting the lead over everybody else. You could have a more skilled agent in your town, and if they're not calling 6 times, you're probably going to get the lead over them just because you're being consistent. So that could be another sign that, hey, maybe it's time for you to go and get an inside sales agent. It might be time to get some help. So Katie, anything to add to that? It looks like you're frozen, so hopefully you can hear me. Anything to add to that before we move on to the next point? I think we lost Katie. Can you guys still see me? While we're waiting for that to fix, Kim, I see you said, do you leave a message every time you call? So that is a highly debated question. I will tell you my opinion, which is the right opinion. I'm just joking. I mean, let's be real. I'm totally joking. My opinion is you do not leave a voicemail the first call, but you do calls 2 through 6. So essentially it's 5 voicemails for the 6 calls. And the reason I say that is there's been many times that I've left voicemails and I don't get a call back right away, but they'll call 3 months later and say, hey, you might not remember me, but 3 months ago, you were the only agent that consistently called me when I submitted information. So you're the only one I want to talk to. So what that told me is even if I'm not hearing back right away, they are getting my voicemail. I'm not going to go into it all right now because of time, but there are scripts for voicemails that actually get callbacks. So a lot of people say voicemails don't work. And I think it's because a lot of people leave voicemails to the tune of, hey, Katie, it's Anna. Call me back tomorrow. Hey, Katie, what's up? It's Anna. Call me back. And you know what? It's the same thing repetitious. A better voicemail is, hey, Katie, it's Anna from the Haro Group. We usually sell homes 2 times faster than other agents in the area. call me back today so I can save you time on market and get you on to the next place. My number is blah, blah, blah. Call me by 5. So now I've dropped a little value. I've given her a deadline to call me back. Those voicemails work. So that's my opinion. And you will get all different opinions on that one. Katie, what's your take on leaving voicemails?
We follow pretty much the same standard you do. We don't on the first one, but we also utilize Ring Central and call from different numbers.
Oh, that's a good idea. Awesome. And what kind of results do you usually get from that, if you remember?
So I'll tell you this, guys, just to kind of put this out there in your mind, because I know some of you right now are thinking this sounds like borderline harassment. What we have to remember is that these people are busy. These people are busy, and just because they aren't returning our call that moment or that day or within 48 hours even, it does not mean that they are not wanting to connect. Mm-hmm. In our company, we would put every single lead that we received that didn't respond to us over the course of 21 days into a separate category called archive. We hired a guy on our team probably in 2015. He's now the president of the company with Tim. And when he first started, we said, here's a list of people to call. It's archive. And we're thinking, this is a good list to start this guy out on. They're kind of our worst leads. He sold 60 houses in 1 year from archive.
60, like 60?
60.
That's amazing.
So these are all prime examples of leads that most teams would have trashed, most individual agents would have trashed. Most people would not have even gone through the reps of following up over the course of 21 days because we convince ourselves we're harassing people or we don't want to be rejected. Whatever that mindset is, it's keeping us from earning our true potential. So do it. Call at least 6 times.
Yeah, that's a great point, Katie. And I love that it's not just it works, but it works and somebody sold 60 houses calling the bad leads that never picked up the phone. I remember when I started doing this, I felt like a harasser. And I remember being very shocked how many people picked up the phone on the 3rd or 4th call. And they would say like, hey, I'm so glad you've been calling me. I have been so busy this week and I just kept forgetting to call you back. That happened more often than the people that were like, take me off your list. Why are you calling me? So, and honestly, I'm okay with the take me off your list people, because if you're not interested, I don't want to waste my time calling you, right? And so it's a good result really either way that you go about it. So Kim says, how can we get the voicemail scripts? Shoot me, actually join the Facebook group, ISA Mastermind group. And I believe it's in the files section. Or you can do that first. That's my preference because I think it's already there and it saves an email. But if it's not there, just shoot me an email. It's mapscoachanna@gmail.com and I can send that back to you. That's the kind of stuff we teach in the coaching program. There's language patterns and scripts and systems for all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I just want to touch real quick on the very first question we received. There is so much out there to help you sound natural and not scripted, but the one, I guess, 2 biggest pieces of advice I have around this is first, pick proven scripts that you like, right? There are so many great scripts out there. Cherry pick your favorites. Yeah. Then commit to memorizing those and not just memorize, but internalize. It's where you have it memorized so well, you could say it as quickly or slowly, take out certain words out of a sentence with ease. Think of things in your life that you have scripted. For me, I know the Our Father scripted backwards and forwards. And so that's just an example of what I mean by internalize. And I guarantee you, if you like the script and you have it internalized, it will sound natural.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Katie. So in a minute, I want you to share how you internalized, because part of this webinar is how to train people. And the way you learn scripts is fantastic. So I'll come to you in a second. But to her point, I was thinking even in the BOLD class, which is a Keller Williams class, it's like an 8-week class on mindset, scripts, things like that. I remember it was interesting because we got 3 different scripts for many of the different lead categories. And that's what they said. They're like, use your personality, like pick which one of the 3 makes sense and use that one. And I'm about to get on my soapbox, so just get ready. But I see in Facebook groups all the time, people like, this script worked for me, or I don't know, I reworded it into what I thought made sense for me. And you have to make sure whoever you're getting your advice from has proven success. because in these Facebook groups, sometimes you might have someone that's been doing it 2 months and they like their script, they feel good about it, but who knows if it's actually working. So make sure wherever you get your script from, that it's from a proven source. Ask them, what's your result using this script? How many closings did it earn you? And get that in your brain, and then it will start to flow a lot better. Luke says fire facts. Yeah. A little fiery sometimes. Okay. So Katie, you know your scripts honestly better than most people. I mean, you're really a ninja with it, and you sound natural. You don't sound scripted.
Thank you.
So tell everybody how you did it. And Katie was a listing agent, but guys, it's no different than being an ISA. So how did Tim train you to the point that you sold 144 homes your first year?
Okay, so it's a little intense, honestly. Tim brought me on and said, here's the deal, Katie, to answer one of these other questions. You're having ISAs set appointments for you. They're only going to get paid if you can take the listing, which he said, I have faith in you. I think you're going to rock at it. He was really confident, super supportive of me. He goes, but they don't know you from Adam. So you need to prove yourself.
Pause there for a minute, because that's so key. You need to prove yourself, right? And so I don't care if you're an agent, new on the team of ISAs, you need to prove yourself to the team, because their money is riding on your skill. That's right. That's a big deal. If you're an ISA, the agents are riding on you not filling up their schedule with a bunch of things that don't make sense. Your skill matters. You need to prove yourselves to them. So that's something you kind of breeze over, because I think it's the culture you came from, Katie, but that's worth stopping for a minute and pointing out. You have to trust your team, and you have to earn credibility through owning your job. Learn your scripts, do your thing. It's too serious not to, because that's how culture breaks down. Okay, so keep going.
So then he told me by this date, and he gave me a specific date and time, you will be tested out of the listing presentation. We're going to test you out of making sure you know it frontwards and backwards, but we're also going to throw out objections. And he said, I'm going to play the role of the seller, my boss, Tim Heil. He said, I'm going to play the role of the seller, and we're going to do this test out in front of the entire team. They're going to sit around the room in a circle, and we're going to be in the middle of the circle. They're going to have the script, so they're going to know exactly what you're supposed to know. And I thought, oh, crap. I mean, it was terrifying to think of that. And he said, the good news is once you master this, a listing presentation will be easy, because the sellers don't know what you're supposed to say. Yeah. So I said, okay, I can do this. And every day up until that point, which probably took about 6 weeks, I would say, I was trained on various things, CMAs, things like that. But I carved out at least an hour to work on my listing presentation and my objection handles. I don't know how I learn best. So what I did is all of the methods. I would record myself saying the listing presentation, listen back to it. I would handwrite it. I mean, it is long. So it was pages and pages of pages of writing it out. I would chant it. I would write it on, I would write my objection handles on huge notepad pieces of paper, stick them to the wall. I would write the objection in red. I would write the handle in blue with embedded commands in green. And I would post them all around this little tiny office that I was in. And I would go in there and I would look at them and chant them and say them. And whenever Tim would walk by, he'd come in and say, hey, and he'd throw an objection out at me. He'd read one of the ones right behind my head and say, hey, another agent said they would do it for less. And I right there in that moment would respond. And in the beginning, it was a bit shaky. It was like, but over that 6-week time of staying committed, I was able to memorize, internalize all of them, and then be tested out in front of the entire team.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that you took extreme ownership, because I hear people say, well, I'm struggling to script 10 minutes a day, or I'll script maybe 3 days a week for 15 minutes. And the thing is, when you're new, you've got to get it in your brain. It's almost like college. When you start a new job, at least that's the way I look at it, it's almost like you're in college for a period of time, and you just live and breathe the job, but you do that super intense for a period of time. And then once you have it down, you go into maintenance mode. Now I can practice 15 minutes a day and I'll maintain what I already learned. But when you first start, it's super intense, and you've got to put yourself, I mean, it's going to take work. And as you were talking, Katie, and you were talking about the pages of writing, my gut reaction was, oh my gosh, that's that just sounds like it would take forever. And then my next thought was, yeah, and she sold 144 homes each year. So I wonder how much money she got paid per hour that she was scripting. Like, okay, if I would pay you, Katie, to script, and I mean, think about this, guys. If I said to you, hey, listen, I guarantee you $500 if for the next 2 hours, you just write scripts over and over on a piece of paper to help you memorize them, I'll give you $500. That's really probably a similar outcome, right? We got to start thinking of the job not just as this one person that closed is worth whatever commission. What about all the activities that led to that? Think about how much money do I make per hour when I do things? How many, anyway, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but the activity that you're doing leads to the results. So Katie sold 144 homes and she spent a lot of time scripting. That was actually very valuable time. She was making a lot of money per hour for the time that she did that. So I think it's really brilliant. Okay, so let me kind of share from the ISA perspective real quick, because that's what I was the inside sales agent, how to train. And then we're going to move on to what type of person are we looking for and where do we find them? Because I see those questions in the box. So what I find bringing in inside sales agents, and I learned this through failure, because the first few times I brought some in, I was thinking to myself, why is it not connecting what they need to do versus what the agent needs to do? I had this idea one day, and we decided that, Katie, say that you were an ISA. Mm-hmm. It's day one. And I'd say, Katie, go in the other room so we can't see each other. And let's pretend that you're a buyer lead that just came in on the website. And I'm going to call you. And I'm going to do all the things that I want you to eventually do. And the whole time you're a buyer, the whole time I'm an agent or inside sales agent. And let's not break role. Don't stop and ask me questions as if we're coworkers. Like, you are a buyer. I am calling you to qualify you. So I call Katie, and she's in the other room because in real life, I can't see my leads. So I call Katie. Hey, Katie, what's up? Hi. So we're looking at some houses. Tell me what's going on there. What has you thinking about it? And I'm going to go through motivation, pre-qualify, all the stuff, and I'm going to set an appointment. And Katie's going to say yes because we want to see how this works in ideal world. Then Katie is going to meet with one of our buyer agents. And that buyer agent is going to take 30 minutes, 45, however long the consult takes on average on your team. And they're going to invest in Katie. And they are going to be a buyer agent, and Katie is going to pretend to buy a house. And actually, people usually have fun with this. If they're thinking about buying a house, use your actual criteria. I like to pretend I'm buying a lake house just personally, if I'm messing around with it. And you just go through the motions of, I want to buy this house. Here's the criteria I want. Here's how much I want to spend. And the agent counsels me on what to do. And what it does is at the end of that, it becomes super clear for that inside sales agent. And you start seeing that, okay, so I don't need to explain everything on the phone because I have been through a consult now myself and I understand what the agent goes over. And so it just creates a clear line as to what's the job that you do on the phone and what things don't need to be talked about until the actual appointment is happening. Then you're going to do the same thing on the seller side. And whether they're a renter or a homeowner, definitely use the house that they live in. It's a lot more realistic for them and they remember it better. So Katie's going to be in the room. I'm going to call Katie. Hey, Katie, I understand you're thinking about selling your house. What has you thinking about that? I'm going to pre-qualify her, set the appointment. She's going to meet with a selling agent. They're going to invest time in her, do a consult with her as if it's for real. And I find that after that, a lot of clarity comes into view because I now understand that I don't have to know everything as the ISA. My job is to ask questions. I honestly explain hardly anything. I just gather information. It's kind of like the nurse role and the agent's the doctor. So when you do that, it helps from a training perspective so that they get the big picture of things. And that helps a ton. So if you have a question about the training piece, throw it in the box. If not, we're going to move on to where do you find these people? And I would be remiss if I did not mention that we're here to help you leverage your training. The ISA coaching program is how we do that. So if you're interested in actually having coaching, Katie's a coach. Katie, I know, has room for clients right now. We have 5 coaches total. They're all amazing. ISAMAPScoaching.com is where you can learn more about that. Okay, looks like we don't have any questions. So Katie, I'll share in a minute, but why don't you share from your perspective, having been an agent, what are you looking for in hiring an ISA? What are the traits?
Driver.
Find them, all that stuff.
If you're thinking about the DISC profile, I'm looking more for a high D probably than any other of the DISC behavior styles.
In case people don't know about DISC.
It's a direct person, assertive driver, somebody who is, because when you really sit down and think about looks like for your team and what you're wanting to leverage out, it's something that is going to take a certain person that can keep pushing through, picking up the phone, making the calls, and being very laser focused into identifying a person's motion and looking for key things that they've been trained to spot and identify to set the best appointment for their agents. And so you want somebody who can push through that pretty easily. When you go in the other routes of a DISC profile, you leave yourself open to really hiring somebody that's not in a natural state of agreement with what the position is requiring of them. So it's kind of like trying to put a square peg into a round hole mindset. People can do it. They can bend outside of their comfort zone, but it only takes a while and not too long for them to snap and say, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. So you really want to hire somebody that's already naturally in agreement with that position.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And I do want to say that DISC and things like that, I would say it's about 25% of the equation. And they've taught that because if somebody's super motivated, or they might figure out a way to approach the role in a way that makes sense for them. So maybe they're handling all buyer leads and they love to be helpful. They don't mind if someone takes a while to convert. They might do okay with a little less of that D driver. I need a challenge. I need quick results, because they're going to be more a long-term nurturer. And so I just want to encourage you, get to know the people you're interviewing, ask a lot of questions. What motivates you and gives you energy? What drains you? What if you had to do it every day would just make you want to beat your head against the wall? And that can give you a good clue. But to echo Katie, generally we want someone that's assertive, fast-paced. If they're okay having 45-minute conversations and shooting the breeze with people, they will not be successful. You will not get through enough conversations to actually get the results that you need. I personally, my biggest thing I look for is someone that has a teachable spirit and they are a natural problem solver. Because if you think about it, and this is an extreme statement, but I'm saying it to make a point. If I'm a good problem solver, every person I talk to is going to become an appointment because I'm going to overcome whatever objection they send to me, right? Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. Not everybody's going to be motivated. But I need somebody that's strategic, that can hear what somebody says is the reason they're not moving forward and formulate a strategy in their brain as to how we can overcome it and get them in the door to meet with an agent. You also need to be able to think through, is it a problem that we can solve, right? Like there might be something that comes up that I can't fix. And so I don't want to set an appointment and waste time of the client or the agent. And so I'm looking for a problem solver who also has a teachable spirit. So true story, in an interview process one time, so do this in an interview, we gave a guy a script and we said, hey, study this script. When we do our next interview, we're going to do some role plays. If in your state, they can make calls and they're unlicensed, you could even have them actually make calls in the interview as just part of the process. But it does depend on your state. So we said, let's do some role play in our next interview. Here's a script, go study it. And in our next interview, we'll see how you do. Honestly, what I was looking for is just, did they study the script? That's all I wanted. Like, did you study the script? I'm not looking for perfection. I just want to know if you studied the script. Well, the guy shows up 2 days later. He goes, I read this. I just didn't really like the way that it sounded. And so I rewrote the script into what I thought sounded better and argued with me, hardcore argued with me about how what the script was just wasn't very good. Well, clearly this is not going to be a good fit, right? And so that came about from giving the script and then seeing the response. And it actually made me tempted from there on out to give pretty horrible scripts to people just to see, like, did they read it and think this is a horrible script? But if it's what they told me to do, I'll do it, right? So really, we're just looking for someone with a teachable spirit, because if someone has a teachable spirit, honestly, we can overcome a lot of things if they're driven and a problem solver, because I can teach the skill. I cannot teach you to be humble and have a teachable spirit. But if you have that, we can teach you a lot of other things. So that's pretty big. Go ahead, Katie.
Our team, the 3 qualities we look for in hiring any person is smart, humble, and hungry. I always try to say hungry, but humble and hungry.
It's efficient to just combine.
There are 3 core values that we're looking for in any person we hire for any position.
Yeah. And I love that. Humble, hungry, and smart. And Kelly has a question. I've heard that the D, which again is that person that usually like variety, change, fast-paced, they don't like to stay in the job too long. And I think you just have to talk to the people. I mean, I did it from 2006 to 2013, and I'm a high D. I'm a high D personality style. And I did it because my motivation was high. So I think you have to know their values. Go ahead.
Yeah, 2 things on that too. I would say, and I think you would agree with me on this. I think I've heard you say this actually, now that I think about it, Anna. If you're having trouble keeping somebody in a role, look at what type of lead generation they're doing. If all they're doing is outbound where they're calling for sellers and you're not letting them handle any inbound leads, that's a really surefire way to have them quit on you after a year's time, even if they're doing phenomenal in the role. So that's one thing. The other thing I'll say, and this is true for any person that you hire, you have to find out what their future goals are for themselves, their family, their life. If they have goals that are this big, I hope you can see my screen. And your goal for your business is this big, meaning they're not going to reach fulfillment in this job long term, then they're gonna leave after they master this skill and realize, okay, I hit the ceiling. But if you can provide them opportunity to achieve their goals, if your goal for your business is this big and theirs fits with inside of it, then you should have no problem maintaining that person in the role.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because I remember when Haro interviewed me, I thought, I don't really want to be on the phone setting appointments. And then he drew out an org chart of where the company was going. And I'm like, I'm in, let's do it. And it was realizing I can achieve my goals within his.
I did the same thing. That sounds just like my story, Anna. It's crazy. He drew an org chart that looked like a spaceship landing on Mars. I didn't even understand it all the way, but I was just so captivated by the growth of the company that I thought, okay, yeah, I'll give this a shot. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I like how your point was, I'm just going to expound on it, about variety of lead sources. So this is probably going to sound like a funny sentence, but really, I think we have to simplify things sometimes. And what I want us to remember is our job is to talk to human beings and see if they have a real estate need. And I find a lot of people, it's like we get in this box of, I call it expired. I call for sale by owners, and I'm a nerd. So I'm going to pull up Gary Keller's book because it's right here. But I find that a lot of people, I like to call it the bullseye of effectiveness. That's not what Gary calls it, but it's what I call it. It's on page 137 of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. So again, check this book out. But this book talks about where are you most effective. In the middle of the circle are met people that have met face to face. And as you work out, you get to, your circle calling, where I just randomly call a neighborhood and look for somebody, the needle in the haystack that's looking to move. And I find from coaching the role, so I talk to a lot of people that do it, so many people live in this outer circle. And they're like, I call expireds, I call for sale by owners, and I call neighborhoods. And then the next day I call expireds, and then I call for sale by owners, and then I call neighborhoods. And the thing is, guys, you can have success doing that, but it's like you're just making your life harder. Call expireds for an hour a day. Call for sale by owners for an hour a day. But start moving yourself into this inner circle. And so why not do an event? We just did a call, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago on our coaching program. We did a webinar on Tuesday, and we talked about what are all the other places that you can find leads. And there's a team, the Castillo group in San Antonio, and they said they go to bridal expos. They give away a pair of Louis Vuitton shoes, which, hello. And what they do is they have this, it's like in this box with, it looks like a glass case. And they say, enter to win the pair of shoes. It's like $800 pair of shoes. And they capture information. And on there, it just says, are you looking to buy or sell in the next 6 to 12 months? And they fill it out. And then they give away these shoes.
Well, they said that they get, gosh, I wish I could remember. I think they said they get around 250 leads every time that they do this. And now they have all these people that they've met. So we're already in the middle of the bullseye, right? I've met them. They're no longer a number that I'm calling that I found online somewhere. I actually met this person. And now I'm going to call them and say, hey, thanks for coming by the expo. You know, I got your form. Just we're here for you if you need anything. And if they are looking to buy or sell, great. So the point I'm making is, to your point, Kelly, about is it high D, will they stay in the role? You probably will need to give them some variety and change and just get outside the box. This is not a role where they only call expired, FSBO, and circle, which we see all the time. Get them talking to human beings wherever they can find them and see if they have a real estate need. That's it. We need human beings that have a real estate need. And however they can do that, that's in a creative avenue for them. Fantastic. All right, so let's talk through where do we find this person? So a lot of people say, I feel like it's the unicorn. You know, where do I find somebody that's going to want to be on the phone all day? Which again, to what the point we just made, maybe they're on the phone part of the time and they're at an expo part of the time. All that matters is that they're adding names and finding people and then staying in touch with them, however they do it. So Katie, from your experience, where's the best place to find people that are really good at this?
Sphere. Yeah. Hands down, probably I would say of our core team in Austin, 85% of us have come from 3 relationships that Tim has. It's his wife, his college roommate, and Ron Patulski at Keller Williams. So he has used those relationships to identify 85%. And in doing so, you are just setting yourself up for such more success, really and truly, because you've already tapped into and know somebody that knows this candidate pretty well and can give you insights into how they show up. Here's another way to look at it too. If you surround yourself with A players, those same A players are also surrounding themselves with A players. A players are not going to hang out with Fs and Ds and Cs. They might hang out with a B plus, a B, right? But that who you hang out with is you're the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. Okay, so if you can really harness that and leverage it in your sphere, you're going to have talent on your team. But you got to ask yourself, how am I showing up individually, right? Am I an A or am I maybe a B plus? You know, so something to consider. But absolutely, your sphere is my first go-to to get them.
Yeah, and when you say 85%, for people that don't know the Heil Group, how many people would you say that represents? Because that's going to leave an impact.
Oh, okay, so that's, and just our Austin hub alone is 15 to 18 people, I would say.
From Sphere. Yeah, and that's just in Austin, and they're all over the country. They're spreading out all over the place. So yeah, Sphere is great. I will say, same answer. I know at the Haro Group, the majority of people we've hired are either a past client, so they experienced working with us, and so we know them. Past client, Sphere, I started working with Haro. We met at church. I actually was good friends with his wife, and then through hanging out with his wife, I got to know Haro, and then the rest is history. And so Sphere, past clients, I will say, if you want to even hone this in even tighter, college recruiters, military recruiters, headhunters. And the reason why, if you think about it, a college recruiter, and I know I'm biased, I was a college recruiter, but listen to me. I have recruited college recruiters to the real estate world, and they are all kicking butt and taking names left and right. One of them is now a productivity coach. She's recruited a ton of people to Keller Williams. She was fantastic at setting appointments. And here's why I think that is there's not many things that you can sell that mirror real estate to the level of something like military recruiting, college recruiting, because if you think about it, it's not a one-time conversation and then I never talk to you again. It usually takes multiple conversations to get someone to the point of recruiting or enrolling. The other thing is, thinking about college, is it's a high dollar item, right? Like they might not be laying out all that money all at one time, but you're enrolling them in something that could cost 50 grand, 100 grand. It depends on the school. And you've got to find out their motivation. Why do you want to do this? I know the school I came from, if I enrolled a student and they did not pass their first class, it didn't count. And so I had to get really good at not just knowing their motivation to get them to enroll. I had to actually make sure they got a C or higher. So we're talking working with these people 3-4 months, keeping them engaged, making sure they get a good grade before any of it even counted. And so if you can find someone with experience like that in your sphere, they're already going to walk into the role pretty clear as to what it takes to keep people motivated and going forward. Katie, what's funny?
Sorry, I'm laughing. I'm just imagining you doing someone's calculus homework for them. Like, you're gonna pass.
You are passing this class. I need to pay my light bill. Yeah, it was very interesting. I will say that. So anyway, if you can find someone from your sphere, and especially if you know college recruiters, military recruiters, or headhunters, great opportunity there. If you are going to go out to the general public, I know there are teams that have great success in just going to the general public, posting ads. Indeed.com is a good website. Spark Hire, which Katie, I think your team's used Spark Hire, right? Tell everybody what Spark Hire is.
It's a web-based platform that allows you to post jobs, but also interview people via like just what we're doing now, webinar-based formatting.
Yeah.
And so it's really incredibly helpful if you're needing to leverage your time through the interview process as well.
Yeah, because they basically, you call them to action to send you a video. And right there, a lot of people are going to select out, which fine, because if you want the job, you'll do a video, right? And then you can see their vibe over video, which can also help minimize. So it's a way to leverage your time. But Indeed, Spark Hire is a tool you can use. Those are the only ones coming to mind right now. But just know, oh, go ahead.
Also, we come from a pretty big market center, so we have a lot of newer agents in our market center, and our team had massive growth goals. So we knew that not only did we want to hire ISAs, but agents. So we identified a couple of agents that are on our team now who came in and started as ISAs, and we were directed to them from our team leads. So we were asking our team leaders, hey, who did you recently get in here and might be struggling a bit, needs a bit more training, accountability? Who do you think would benefit from our team structure, and point them in our direction? We'd love to have a conversation with them. So we leveraged our team leaders at our market centers as well.
That's really good. And I actually am thinking of a team right now, another high producing team. I won't say their name just because I didn't ask permission, but they said that there was a person in their market center that was a high performing agent. And they had this belief like, well, they're not going to want to join us. I mean, they don't need to. They don't need to join us. Well, anyway, they ended up joining the team to get the leverage, and they're still there. And so the people thought they won't want to join our team. And then it went to, well, they'll join our team, but they probably won't stay real long. And that person's been there now for years. And the point is, they got so much value from being plugged into the team. They got so much time back. They got the training. They got the leadership, that it was worth it to them to stay. And so if there might be somebody that you're thinking of that's really talented, and you might have in your head right now, I don't know why they'd want to join me. I hear that from team owners a lot. It's a mindset. I don't know why they'd want to join me, or they don't need me. They're successful on their own. And in reality, they might be out there looking for another job, or thinking, gosh, I wish I could join a team because I need help. I'm drowning in paperwork. They could become a great person to join your team. So I love that. Let's also talk through, how do we pay them? And I'm not going to tell anybody what to pay somebody right now, because as a coach, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know your budget. I don't know a lot of things to just on a webinar say, yeah, just pay people this much. It should work out great. So that would really be more of a coaching conversation. But I will say how our team did it. And then Katie, I'll have you share, because I know it was different. But generally speaking, there's two ways. You can do a base pay, a higher base pay, plus a set bonus for every closing. And that usually works well if they are not licensed. And again, you got to check with your state, because states can have weird rules. There's some states that you can't even make a phone call if you're not licensed. There's other states that you can. It just depends where you are. Canada has a lot of different rules than here in the States. So again, find out from your local broker what you can or can't do with an ISA. But if they're unlicensed, a base pay plus just a set bonus per closing that comes in is usually the way to do it. what I recommend is make sure they're licensed, and you will have a lower base pay, but you're going to add in commission. And so the earning potential is actually higher. And just to be transparent with you, when I started with Haro, I was unlicensed. That was fine in my state. And I had a higher base pay plus commission. And at first I liked the security of that. And it was actually what I wanted. Well, after a while, I realized I'm leaving so much money on the table because it's this set fee. So if I bring in $100,000 house or a $500,000 house, I'm making the same on this bonus structure. And so I went, paid for my licensure, and then switched to commission system. And honestly, I highly recommend it because even though I considered myself to have a high work ethic, my brain started thinking differently when I realized, okay, if I'm going to make 20 calls this morning, I'm going to target people that are in the $400,000 price range than the $100,000 price range, because why not? If I can make more money and bring in more money to the team, why would I not do that? And so I found that my brain just started thinking differently when there was commission on the line because I wanted to earn as much as I could. So that would be a benefit. Generally speaking, you see that base pay somewhere between $1,500 a month to $3,000 a month. And guys, it really depends where you live. We have people in the coaching program in Palm Springs, California, where you wouldn't survive on $1,500 a month. No way. And then there's other places where that would actually be fine when you add in the commission. So again, you got to know your market. So you're looking at the base pay. And then the commission is usually somewhere between 5 and 10% of whatever the team gets. So if the team gets 3% total off the deal, so say it's $10,000, the ISA, if they were earning 5% of that, they would get $500 off of that 10. And so it breaks down like that. And the way I looked at it as I never got this incredibly massive commission check, but because I was on a team, I got so many commission checks. I sold 85 homes my first year through working with the agents. And by the way, I didn't know anybody in my town. I was new to Greenville. And so it's possible to do this and not know anybody in town. So get that out of your head if it's there.
And I only sold 2 sphere deals my first year. And one of them was actually an expired call that they just happened to know me.
That's awesome. So kind of one with an extra thrown in. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, if you have this mindset of I'm new and I don't know anybody here, it doesn't matter. It's a mindset thing, not a practical thing. So anyway, I never got these massive commission checks, but because I got 85 of them my first year, I had a great year. And so again, that's the power of being on a team. So Katie, talk to us because your team does a little bit more of the junior agent model.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what that looks like.
So we have a hybrid model. We basically do every type of model you can think of if you're utilizing anybody to leverage out your lead generation too. So we have the traditional ISA OSA role, and that's the 1,500 5% commission bonus. But we also have a junior agent model where we have individuals joining our team with the aspirations of becoming an agent. It's a 6-month training program to graduate into a senior agent. During the 6 months, they are responsible for lead generating consistently every day and sourcing what we consider to be good qualified seller leads, which we have labeled nurtures. There's actually criteria, 5 set criteria that qualifies a lead to become a nurture. For every nurture that our junior agents are sourcing, they're being paid $50. Okay, so we have certain standards each month with the number of nurtures they need to produce to graduate to the next level of training. And so, yeah, if you're looking across the board at a traditional ISA model, we're paying them less, but it's a paid training program. They are getting so much training and value from the afternoon of the day and graduating to become agents that it's worth it. So. And also, we're not having them set the appointments for the agents, right? We are just simply sourcing nurtures that go into a list in our CRM that the agents are then able to call on and set their own appointments. So our agents actually now work off of a hybrid system of doing their own lead generation and setting team leads, setting their own sphere leads, and then having an ISA, OSA setting leads for them.
Yeah. And Katie, I know that we're getting low on time, and clearly, I mean, this could be days worth of class, right? Like there's so much to this. And so if people want to reach out to you either about coaching or just to say like, hey, tell me more about this model, because we are getting low on time, what's your email and how can they reach you?
It's Katie at Heil, H-E-Y-L, realestate.com. I'm putting it in the chat box now so you have access to it. But yeah, so there's so many different types of models like you're mentioning that it really does take a coaching session to help figure out which one is going to be best for your budget, your time, your goals, your focus. All of those factors really play a major role. Before we end this call, Anna, there is something I really want you to mention, and it's the return on investment with an ISA, because that drives me crazy.
Okay.
I get so heartbroken for people that listen to webinars or read something or catch something somewhere and say, okay, my ISA needs to be setting 35 appointments a month or else they're no good. So can you just in 2 minutes tell them what that means, how that translates out?
Oh my gosh, what a good conversation. So I'm like getting at the end of my chair. So I hear a lot of people say, and don't do this, do not do this. They're like, I saw this guy at Mega Camp stage, and he said his ISA sets 45 appointments a month. So that's what I'm going to have mine do. And the thing is, first of all, what does an appointment mean on that team, right? I remember calling a girl saying, how are you setting so many appointments? Well, I found out her definition of appointment was actually a nurture. All she was doing was like, oh, you want to buy a house? I'll have my agent call you. And she was calling that an appointment. So first of all, always ask people, what do you mean when you say appointment? How do you decide it's time to set an appointment? She was setting a ridiculous amount of appointments, and really it was just a warm transfer. I was setting appointments that were pre-qualified, and they were actually on the calendar knowing I'm needing to list my house. Not even the same thing, right? And so what you want to do to figure out what your standard should be is think through, what return on investment do I need for this person? And I'm going to dehumanize it for a minute. And I can do that because I was an ISA. So it's okay. Don't get mad at me. Think about your ISA kind of like paying for a lead source. Because it's kind of what they are, right? You're paying somebody to bring names into the database and then convert them. So if you think of it like a lead source, if you were paying Zillow $1,000 a month to bring you leads, how much money would you want to make from those Zillow leads every month for it to make sense to keep Zillow around, right? And everybody will have a different number. Do you want to earn 3,000? That's 3 times ROI. Do you want to earn 5,000? That's 5 times ROI. You got to get clear on, what am I paying for this service or this lead source? And how much do I need to get back per month for it to make sense to keep that lead source here, right? It's easy to think about that when we talk about internet leads or paid sources. We forget that when we're talking about an ISA. And I did the math one time, just playing with some pretty realistic numbers. And I thought, okay, say that we're paying an ISA, 5% of 3%, we're giving them a $2,000 base pay. And what I found is in most average markets, if they just brought you 2 to 3 deals a month, and that's it, they would bring you about 5 times ROI. And again, this is a coaching conversation. This is really general on a webinar, so keep that in mind.
Yes.
But what I found is, really, honestly, they wouldn't need to bring you that much to be worth the money you were paying them. And so I see people say all the time, well, if my ISA doesn't set 40 appointments, they're out of here. And it's like, oh my gosh, all they really need to bring you is maybe 2 to 3 deals a month, and you would be making a pretty good ROI, and anything above that is gravy. And so what you got to do is get clear on, how many closings per month do I need from the ISA? And that is your base. Most talented ISAs will hear that number, like, you want me to close 3 a month? And they're going to say, well, for my goals, I want to close 10 a month. So can we talk about 10? That's what most talent will do. They're going to want to talk about a different number. But whatever you tell them is the standard, realize if they don't hit it, you have to let them go, because your leadership is going to be harmed if you don't follow through with what you say you're going to do. So get clear before you hire an ISA. Get clear on, what do I have to have from them from closings every month in order for me to keep them around? And that is your standard. And you have to be willing to let them go if they don't hit it. So make sure you're not overinflating it. And then all that you do is track to get clear on, okay, if I need 3 closings from them a month, and let's just say, I'm going to pull out my calculator. If you need them to bring you 3 closings a month, and say it takes 75 contacts to bring a closing in, right? So I set one, it shows up, it actually goes to market and closes, 75. You just take 3 times 75, and that's 225 contacts. Well, that's in a whole month. Talk to 225 people in a whole month. You should bring me 3 closings mathematically, and you're doing your bare minimum. And again, most talented ISAs will look at that and be like, that's a ridiculously low number. I want to do way more. So does that explain it, Katie? Because in my head, this is making sense, but this is a complex conversation.
Yeah, it is a complex conversation. I guess the baseline I really want people to take away from this webinar is if I'm looking at different sources about ISA, OSAs, if I'm reaching out to webinars and I'm getting my baseline, my standards for how they should perform from those webinars just by throwing out what other big teams are doing, I need to stop and reevaluate the return on investment of that lead source. Yeah. And like you mentioned, it does take a coaching call to really iron through this with greater detail specific to your business. So I just want to put that awareness in your mindset today.
Yeah. Don't ever be on a webinar and just think, well, that's what they did, so it's what I'll do, because price points are different. Everything's different. You know, if you're in a lower price point area, you might actually need your ISA to bring in more closings than a higher price point ISA, because one closing from them could be worth 3 closings in your area. Mm-hmm. So you've got to talk to a coach. So we're going to go ahead and end this, but let me tell you how to find a coach to talk to them. First of all, there's a few resources. You can go to isamapscoaching.com, and the landing page will say something to the tune of click here to talk to a coach and find out more. And that does take you to me, Katie, Annalisa, any one of our coaches will call you. It's not like this mythical person. Like one of us that is a coach will call you. Or if you know that you want to sign up for the program, you can click on that button. Also on isamapscoaching.com, there's a tab that says webinars. And we have a whole bank of webinars that we've done. Anything from, some of you typed in, I want to get better with scripts. That wasn't really the purpose of today's webinar. Go to isamapscoaching.com, click on the webinar tab, and you'll find webinars that talk about that. One last resource is ISA Mastermind Group on Facebook. It is a collaboration of people from all over the place. It's a group I started about 4 years ago to just add resources. So that's another spot where you can find out when's the next webinar, when's the next thing starting. So isamapscoaching.com if you want to know more about the program, and then resources. Anything else, Katie?
No, that's great. Thank you, Anna.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to go. I will see you later on the next webinar. And you guys have a great day. Bye, Katie.
Bye.